the ultimate Egyptian origin story, from cosmic slime to sibling rivalry. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dynamic Interactions. If you're looking for answers to the universe's biggest questions like, where did we come from? Or why does my cat stare into the void with such intense judgment? You've absolutely come to the right place. Well, at least for the first question. The second one, my friend, is a mystery for the ages, probably involving snacks. Now, before we dive into today's absolutely mind-bending, universe-shaping adventure, and trust me, this one's a doozy, I've got a little challenge for you. If, by the end of this journey, your brain has expanded, your mind has been blown, and you've genuinely learned something new, something that makes you go, whoa, that's wild, my entire worldview is shifted, even if only slightly, and now I see puddles differently, then, and only then, do me a solid, hit that like button and subscribe. No pressure if you don't, but if your brain gets a little bigger today and you feel that satisfying thump of new knowledge settling in, well, you know what to do. Let's build this community of curious minds together, one cosmic origin story at a time. All right, enough with the sales pitch. This is a long one, folks. We're talking cosmic scale here, deep dives into the very origins of existence. So go on, don't be shy. Go grab your favorite beverage, whether that's a perfectly brewed coffee that still tastes vaguely of yesterday morning, a surprisingly fizzy soda that tickles your nose just right, or just a glass of water you've convinced yourself is sparkling purely through positive affirmation. And definitely snag a snack. We're talking chips, cookies, that suspicious-looking fruit at the bottom of the bowl, last night's leftover pizza, whatever your heart desires. Seriously, get comfortable, settle in, maybe even put on your comfiest socks and light a fancy candle, because we're about to explore the very beginnings of everything, according to the ancient Egyptians. And trust me, it's a wild ride. Far more dramatic and stranger than anything Hollywood could dream up, even with a multi-million-dollar budget. So, without further ado, let's step into the primordial abyss and see how the ancient world began. Part 1. The Great Nothing, but wet, dark, and utterly confusing nothingness. So, you want to know how the universe began. Before we even think about the Big Bang or a giant cosmic egg hatching or a sky serpent uncoiling or even a talking lion dictating terms for creation, forget all that. For the ancient Egyptians, before anything, before time, before even the concept of before really made sense, there was water. And not just any water. We're talking Nun, the original, ultimate cosmic wet blanket, the universe's first, greatest, and most profound puddle. Imagine, if you will, the deepest, darkest, most utterly chaotic ocean you've ever seen. Now imagine that ocean filling absolutely everything. There were no stars to twinkle, no sun to burn brightly, no land to stand on, no breathable air to inhale, and, thankfully, no annoying telemarketers interrupting your primordial peace. Just an infinite, boundless, primordial watery abyss. This was Nun. The Egyptians saw Nun not just as an absence, but as a vast, unformed, dark, and often rather terrifying liquid chaos. It wasn't just empty space. It was the potential for everything, the raw material for creation, but also, well, nothing you'd want to swim in for leisure, or even exist in for more than a nanosecond. Honestly, it sounds a bit like a Monday morning before coffee, but on a universal, eternal scale, without the promise of coffee ever arriving to rescue you. Nun wasn't empty of stuff. It was full of unorganized potential, a swirling, formless soup. It contained the raw, unshaped seeds of everything that would ever be, just sort of floating around, bumping into each other aimlessly like lost dust bunnies in a cosmic bathtub, waiting for someone to pull the plug or, create. It was the ultimate cosmic primordial soup without even the soup part properly formed, just raw ingredients in search of a chef, a recipe, or even a basic stirring spoon. It was just wet. Very, very wet and dark. And if you think your room is messy, imagine living in a cosmic soup with no boundaries and no walls. So, if you're ever feeling overwhelmed by the sheer unadulterated chaos in your life, just remember, at least you're not stuck trying to make sense of noon. Probably. Unless you've had a really, really long week, in which case I deeply, deeply empathize. Part 2. The original solo act. Atum arises and self-procreates. But how do you get something from watery nothingness? How do you go from cosmic slosh to organized life with gods, humans, and cats, who, let's be honest, were probably always there, silently judging? This is where our first major player comes in, the ultimate self-starter. From the endless, churning, rather boring waters of noon, entirely by his own colossal will and sheer force of divine personality, emerged Atum. Think of him as the original solo artist, the ultimate self-made being, the universe's very first pull-yourself-up-by-your-bootstraps success story. He didn't have parents or a big bang to ride on or even a helpful instruction manual from the cosmos. He just was. He just willed himself into existence, which is frankly quite impressive. Take notes, aspiring entrepreneurs, because this is how you truly disrupt the primordial void. Atum was not just a god, he was the god of creation, the one who initiated everything. He literally pulled himself up from the depths of the watery abyss, and when he emerged, he found himself standing on the Benben, the primordial mound. This Benben mound was the first dry land to appear from noon, like a little island of hope in an infinite cosmic swimming pool, a tiny piece of real estate in a watery universe. It's thought to be symbolized by the top stone of an obelisk or the capstone of a pyramid. So next time you see a pyramid, remember it's basically a monument to the world's first landmass, which literally emerged from divine plumbing. Talk about prime real estate with a history that goes back to the very first splash. Now, Atum had a bit of a problem. A very significant, existential problem, actually. He was alone. Utterly, completely, cosmically, soul-crushingly alone. Imagine being the only person at the greatest party ever, but the party is just infinite water, and you're the only one there, and there's no music, and no snacks. If you think being stuck in quarantine was bad, or being the last one to leave the office on a Friday, try being the only thing in existence in an infinite void. There was no one to talk to, no one to share his grand cosmic visions with, no one to even high-five after a particularly good self-creation. The silence must have been deafening, punctuated only by the primordial sloshing of noon. So, Atum, being a highly motivated divine being with a strong desire for company, decided it was time to make some friends. Or at least some companions. But how do you do that when you're the only game in town? When there's literally no one else to team up with, no one to even swipe right on, no one to send a very awkward cosmic "you up" text to. Well, the myths vary a little here, but the most common and frankly most fascinating, if slightly awkward version, suggests Atum created his first children entirely by himself. Yes, folks, we're talking about a truly divine act of auto-creation. Some ancient texts explicitly state he masturbated, bringing Shu and Tefnut into being from his semen. Others offer a slightly more palatable, perhaps even comical version, saying he sneezed them out. Can you imagine? Achoo! Oh look, 2 new gods! Bless me! So either the first gods of the Egyptian pantheon were born from divine self-love and cosmic bodily fluids, or from the most powerful allergic reaction in history. I don't know about you, but I'm personally leaning towards the allergy. Because really, who hasn't felt like they sneezed out an entire new being on a particularly strong pollen day? Just me? Okay, maybe it was both. A self-induced, sneezing, creative explosion of cosmic proportions, followed by a polite, "excuse me." The universe is weird, guys, and it started with a bang or a sneeze or, well, you get the idea. Part 3. The First Breath and Moisture. Say hello to Shu and Tefnut. So, from Atum's singular, rather unconventional effort came his first 2 children, the immediate consequence of his divine creative act, Shu and Tefnut. Think of them as the cosmic Adam and Eve, except they had a much weirder origin story. Shu was the god of air, the very breath of life, the vast separating space that allows things to exist distinctly. He's the invisible force that fills the void, the gentle breeze that rustles the leaves, the very essence of atmospheric pressure. Without Shu, everything would still be squashed, a cosmic sardine can. And Tefnut was the magnificent goddess of moisture, the dew that nourishes the plants, the rain that feeds the Nile, the essential wetness that brings life. She's the humidity on a summer day, the condensation on your cold drink, the refreshing mist after a long drought. Together, they represented the initial steps towards order, the fundamental elements needed for anything to thrive beyond raw chaos. You need air and moisture to, have things happen. Imagine trying to build a universe without either. It'd be a bit dusty, incredibly parched, and suffocating, wouldn't it? Not a great living environment, even for gods. Now, here's where the plot thickens slightly, adding a touch of cosmic parental anxiety that any parent watching this can probably relate to. After their rather sudden and unconventional creation, Shu and Tefnut, being the curious, energetic firstborns they were, decided to explore. They wandered off into the vast primordial waters of none, probably thinking, hey, this is cool. What else is out here? Is there a divine Starbucks around, or at least a cosmic playground? And then, like toddlers in a cosmic supermarket, they got a bit lost. Parents, you know the feeling, right? One minute they're right there clinging to your leg, the next they've vanished behind the cereal aisle, leaving you in a cold sweat of pure panic. Atum, being a brand new cosmic parent with exactly zero experience in child-rearing, got incredibly worried. His solitary existence had just been broken by these two energetic beings, and now they were gone. He searched and searched for them, sending his powerful eye, often depicted as a separate entity, a fierce solar deity, or even the fiery goddess Hathor or Sekhmet, to find his lost children. This eye scoured the dark waters, blazing with purpose, probably muttering under its breath about irresponsible divine offspring and the lack of divine leashes. When his eye finally triumphantly brought Shu and Tefnut back from the watery depths, Atum was so overjoyed, so utterly relieved, that he shed tears of happiness. Think of the biggest happy cry you've ever had, like when you find your phone after thinking you lost it forever, but on a universal scale. And guess what those tears created as they fell upon the Ben mound? That's right, human beings. So, according to this version of the myth, we are literally the tears of a lonely, immensely relieved cosmic dad. If that doesn't make you feel special and a little bit fragile, I don't know what will. It also explains why we're all so emotional sometimes. It's just our primordial programming, our origin story written in our very DNA. We're literally the universe's happy tears shed out of pure relief. Keep that in mind next time you cry. You're just channeling your inner Atum, celebrating the return of Shu and Tefnut. Part 4. The Earth and Sky's Forbidden Love, Geb and Nut. With Shu and Tefnut safely back from their little adventure and the human prototypes running around, probably still a bit watery and confused about this whole existence thing, and possibly needing towels, these two original siblings, Shu and Tefnut, got busy themselves. And by busy, I mean they gave birth to the next crucial pair in the Egyptian pantheon, the figures that would literally define the very structure of our world, Geb and Nut. Geb was the god of the earth, the solid, fertile ground beneath our feet, the very bedrock of existence. He's the land, the mountains, the valleys, the dirt under your fingernails after a long day of gardening. And Nut was the magnificent goddess of the sky, a vast star-spangled arch that stretched across everything, encompassing the entire universe. She's the celestial ceiling of the universe, painted with constellations and nebulas, through which the sun travels daily and night, bringing light and time. And Geb and Nut were madly in love, and they were, shall we say, inseparable, like physically inseparable. They were constantly locked in a passionate, eternal embrace, which, while undeniably romantic from a cosmic perspective, created a bit of a problem for the rest of creation. There was no space. Everything was squashed. You couldn't even walk around without tripping over the sky or getting a mouthful of earth. It was basically the most extreme case of divine cuddling ever, and it was preventing the universe from properly expanding and allowing life to flourish. Imagine trying to build a house or even just breathe when the sky is constantly pressing down on the earth. Talk about claustrophobia. It was a literal cosmic pile-up. This is where their father Shu, the god of air, remember, the guy who brings the breathing room and good ventilation, had to step in. It was literally his job to create space, to provide the vital void in which things could exist, to allow the cosmos to unfold properly. So Shu, with what I imagine was a deep, universe-shaping sigh, probably an atmospheric pressure system forming for the first time, giving us weather forecasts and future complaints about humidity, gently but firmly separated Geb and Nut. He lifted Nut, the sky goddess, high above Geb, the earth god, creating the space we now call the atmosphere, the firmament, the very space in which we live and breathe. This act of separation is absolutely fundamental to the Egyptian worldview. Nut's body, adorned with shimmering stars, became the majestic arched firmament of the night sky, with the sun, moon, and stars traveling across her magnificent form each day and night, bringing light and time. And Geb, below, became the fertile earth from which all life springs forth, covered in greenery and ready for cultivation. Imagine the awkward family dinners after that. Dad, why did you break up me and Nut? We were so happy squashed together, even if it was a bit cramped. Son, someone had to create breathing room. Literally. How else were your new siblings going to be born? And how were the humans going to build pyramids and enjoy sunshine? It's the ultimate divine intervention in personal space, all for the good of cosmic order and preventing the universe from becoming a giant squished pancake. Sometimes you just need a little space, even if you're the sky and earth. Part 5. The Fab Five plus 1. The Osirian family. Now, even though Geb and Nut were physically separated by their diligent father Shu, they still managed to have children. Because, divine beings don't follow typical biological rules, especially when it comes to long-distance relationships or basic physics. Their offspring became some of the most important and influential gods in the entire Egyptian pantheon, forming what's often called the Osirian family, or the Ennead, a group of 9 gods centered around Atum and his direct descendants. This is where the real drama, the love triangles, and the epic battles really start to unfold. First, there was Osiris, the benevolent king of early Egypt, often depicted with green skin, symbolizing fertility and resurrection. He was the one who taught humanity about agriculture, law, and civilization, bringing them out of a wild, barbaric state and teaching them how to plant crops and build cities. He's basically the good guy, the ultimate benevolent ruler, the one you definitely want to lead your ancient Egyptian scout troop, teaching them knot tying and how to properly irrigate a field. He's the reason we have bread and organized society, among other things. So let's hear it for Osiris. What a stand-up guy. Then came his incredibly devoted wife and sister, Isis, the fantastically powerful sorceress, mother goddess, and protector of kingship. She's depicted with wings, representing her protective nature. She's the ultimate resourceful divine female, able to fix almost anything, including a god who's been, let's just say, disassembled into many, many pieces across the land. More on that truly epic drama another time. Trust me, it's a whole other saga involving betrayal, magic, reassembly, and probably a very long scavenger hunt. Next up was Set, the god of chaos, deserts, storms, violence, and generally being a pain in the divine backside. He's often depicted with a mysterious, almost dog-like head. He's the grumpy, volatile sibling, the one who always wants to stir things up and cause trouble. Every family has one, right? Just, hopefully not one who actively plots to dismember their older brother and take over the world, or makes the weather really bad just to annoy everyone. Again, future episode material, but trust me, it gets spicy. Don't invite Set to your next family reunion unless you're really into extreme sports and unexpected weather patterns. Then there was Nephthys, the goddess of mourning, protection, and funerary rites. She was the sister of Isis and Set, and often seen as a helpful, albeit sometimes overlooked presence, usually standing by her sister's side even when her brother Set was causing trouble. She's the quiet, supportive one in the background, making sure everyone's okay, especially after Set's antics, probably handing out tissues and offering comforting words. And finally, according to some traditions, Horus the Elder, the original falcon-headed god associated with the sky and often conflated with Ra, born before the more famous Horus, son of Osiris and Isis, who takes center stage in a later, very dramatic story of vengeance and succession. With this new generation, the divine family was complete. A full house of immense divine power ready to shape the world and, as we'll see in later videos, embark on some truly epic adventures, conflicts, and family feuds that make reality TV look tame. Part 6. Order, Creation, and the Eternal Flow of Life in the Cosmos. Now, with the sky and earth separated, and this new generation of gods ready to take their destined places, the world began to take on a more defined and organized form. No longer just a chaotic, watery mess, it was now a cosmos with structure, purpose, and a very specific set of rules. The ancient Egyptians deeply believed in Ma'at, the profound concept of cosmic order, balance, truth, justice, and harmony. Ma'at wasn't just a law, it was the very fabric of existence, the principle that prevented the universe from slipping back into the chaotic state of none. Every action, every phenomenon, every divine intervention was seen through the lens of establishing or maintaining Ma'at against the lingering, ever-present forces of chaos. Maintaining Ma'at was the king's primary duty, and it was crucial for the continued prosperity of Egypt. The majestic sun god Ra, often fused with Atum as Ra Atum, began his daily journey across Nut's arched body, traveling from east to west in his solar bark, bringing light, warmth, and life to the nascent world. This daily cycle of the sun rising and setting wasn't just about day and night, it symbolized creation, death, and rebirth, a continuous renewal that mirrored the life cycle on Earth. Without Ra's journey, there would be no light, no warmth, and certainly no tan lines in ancient Egypt. And speaking of life, the mighty Nile River, the literal lifeblood of Egypt, began to flow predictably, bringing incredibly rich, fertile silt to the land during its annual inundation. This wasn't just a river, it was a divine gift, directly integrated into their cosmology. Its predictable flooding allowed crops to grow, sustained communities, and allowed civilizations to flourish, turning the otherwise barren desert into a verdant paradise. Without the Nile, ancient Egypt simply wouldn't exist as we know it. It was seen as a manifestation of Nun's life-giving waters, but now brought into order. Humans, who, let's not forget, were created from Adam's happy tears, were now thriving on Geb's back, interacting with the gods, building their own societies, learning the ways of Ma'at, and hopefully enjoying their new dry existence. The world, from being a chaotic, dark, wet, and utterly formless void, had become a vibrant, intricately ordered cosmos filled with light, life, and the daily, cyclical dance of gods and mortals. It's a pretty impressive transformation, wouldn't you say? From a primordial puddle and a divine sneeze to a fully functioning pantheon and a world ripe for adventure, drama, and eventually a whole lot of mummies, pyramids, and fascinating hieroglyphs. The universe, according to the Egyptians, was no accident. It was a divine, deliberate, and sometimes messy creation, overseen by a very complex, very dramatic family of gods. Wrapping up, the cosmic family drama you never knew you needed. So there you have it, the very beginnings of Egyptian mythology, a creation story unlike any other. From the endless, soggy, and utterly featureless void of Nun to the ultimate self-starter Atum, who apparently wasn't shy about his unique procreation methods, whether by a self-expression or a divine sneeze, take your pick, to the very first breathable air and soothing moisture, all the way to the great separation of sky and earth and the birth of a pantheon of gods ready for all kinds of dramatic shenanigans, rivalries, and epic tales. It's a story steeped in creation, the triumph of order emerging from overwhelming chaos, and frankly a lot of very unique family dynamics that make your own holiday gatherings look perfectly normal by comparison. These myths weren't just simple stories for the ancient Egyptians. They were their profound understanding of the universe, the powerful forces that govern their daily lives, the sacred cycle of life and death, and the divine drama playing out around them every single moment. They shaped their religion, their art, their architecture, their societal laws, and their entire way of seeing the cosmos. And it all started with a big splash and a lonely god who just wanted some company. I truly hope you found this deep dive into Egyptian origins as fascinating and perhaps as even amusing as I did while researching it for you. If your mind is buzzing with new knowledge, if you feel like you've genuinely learned something profound and surprising about how this incredible civilization saw the beginning of everything, then please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more journeys into the weird, wonderful, and utterly captivating world of ancient myths, legends, and history. Your support helps me keep exploring these awesome topics and bringing them to you. Thanks so much for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video, where we might just find out what happened to Osiris and his rather unfortunate brother. You won't want to miss that one. Bye for now.